a lead debate on the Petroleum Tanker Safety Bill 2019. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, it is my privilege to lead the debate on the general principles of Petroleum Tanker Safety Bill 2019 SB 145. The bill was read for the very first time on Wednesday, 6 November 2019. This bill seeks to reduce frequent petroleum trucks accidents on Nigerian roads, as well as make consequential provisions towards safe petroleum product transportation system across the country. As short title of the bill suggests, the bill was inspired by the urgent need to promote safety in the transportation of petroleum products on our highways using tankers. It further seeks to eliminate practices that are inimical to freight traffic and petroleum haulage in Nigeria, promote the welfare of tanker drivers by ensuring investment in truck transit parks and related transport infrastructures, and to generally promote safe commercial cargo haulage and reduce accidents arising from transportation of petroleum products by road. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, you are all aware of the high incidence of crashes by petroleum tankers on our highway over the years. Most of these accidents often result into loss of lives and properties running into hundreds of millions of naira. According to a study conducted by the Federal Road Safety Corps, between 2007 and 2010 alone, a total of 4,017 tanker trailer crashes were recorded on Nigerian roads, with the yearly average of 1,148 cases and monthly average of 96 crashes. The above statistics are no doubt alarming, but what is more alarming is the near failure of the existing institutional and legal framework to reverse or mitigate this ugly situation. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, we are witnesses to the recent petroleum tanker mishap, the Mile 2 Lagos incident on October 15, and a tanker laden with petroleum products spilled on the Zumbambadiwe, as well as the Onitsha tanker crash due to failure of the tank shell. We record this tragic incident that occurred on Otedola Bridge on June 28, 2018. At this incident, 12 lives were lost. Many people were injured, and at least 55 vehicles were lost in the inferno. This persistent carriage of road haulage of petroleum products in our society necessitates the introduction of this bill. It is against this background that this bill became necessary in order to provide a legal framework that is peculiar to this segment of the transport industry and to further strengthen existing collaborations between government agencies on transportation of petroleum products by road. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, considering the peculiar nature of the petroleum industry and the important role of petroleum tankers on the transportation of petroleum products, this bill seeks to allow the creation of Petroleum Tanker Safety Department to oversee the use of tanker trucks for transportation of petroleum products and generally collaborate with other relevant agencies to ensure effective regulations and safety issues relating to petroleum freight industry. Accordingly, this bill is divided into 5 major parts, subdivided into 41 clauses. Part 1 of the bill contains the objectives and scope of bill, while Part 2 of the bill is on the proposed measure for enforcing the provisions of the bill. Part 3 of the bill introduces a novel provision which the recognition of truck transit parks in selected locations across the country The TTP recognized under this bill are accordingly listed in the schedule of this bill. It is proposed under Part 4 of the bill that a freight traffic liability claim tribunal be established to handle civil claims arising from petroleum tanker crashes, to ensure speedy dispensation of justice to victims of petroleum tanker accidents. Offences peculiar to petroleum freight industries are created in Part 5 of the bill, and such offences are to be tried by the Federal High Court. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, this bill is not in conflict with any existing law, but will only strengthen existing institutions in the discharge of their responsibilities on highway transportation. I therefore wish to appeal for the support of my distinguished colleagues for the expeditious passage of this bill to address the increasing incidents of petroleum tanker crashes in Nigerian roads. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, in compliance with Order 77, Section 3 of the Senate Standing Orders 2015 as amended, the proposed bill has no additional financial burden to the Treasury of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, since the enforcement of this bill will be under the Department of Petroleum Resources through the department specially created under this bill. Thank you for your kind attention.
I rise to lend my support to second this very important debate on this on the second reading of this bill, which is brought by an industry player with information and experience in the industry, and has come here and with ideas and opinions to help solve the problem. Mr. President, we know the problem of tanker drivers and the sharing of the road with other road users in the country. We also know that as a result of vandalization of pipelines across the country, most depots that are supposed to be, that are coastal depots in the Niger Delta and the Southeast and North Central are no longer working. And with the result that almost everybody goes to Southwest for petroleum, for fetching of petroleum products that are sold all parts of the country. With the result that the vehicular problems in Lagos has been compounded. As we are talking now, there is a presidential ad hoc committee that has been stationed in the Apapa for almost 4 or 5 months running now, with the Secretary of Transport and the Federal Capital here leading that effort. And that effort is just what the congestion of the Apapa Wharf, so that people can go in and get out. Tanker drivers have a lot of trouble in the Southwest, especially in Lagos, because most of the ocean-going vessels that bring petroleum products, anchor in Apapa Wharf and with several tank farms in that area. And that has made life unbearable for people in Lagos. Efforts have been made to put the tanker motor parks at the outskirts of Lagos. That has not solved the problem, because many people still don't want them to move. Mr. President, this bill seeks to solve this problem. If we now get this bill passed into law, the government of the Federation will now designate a place specially for them, not asking the state governments, to find some temporary measures to solve a long-lasting solution. Once we do that, we'll have a designated area for the tanker drivers. And if those places are designated especially for them without any interference, they can move. That is a short-term issue. The long-term issue actually is making sure that all the depots in all the coastal depots in the south become operational, so that people can fetch their product without going to Lagos. Because there's no reason for a person from the northwest or northeast going to Lagos when he can go to get to Plateau, get to Jos, or at most go to Makurdi and fetch the product and go back. But because the things are not working, the pipelines are not working, they now have to come over. Even the depots in Enugu is not working, very close to Port Harcourt. Even the one in Ubah is not working. So this is the measure my colleague is bringing here is a temporary measure, but the long term is getting the depots to work. Because if the depots are working and things are working, people have no business. Anybody from the southeast going to Lagos to fetch products. Or since we are putting rail lines now, we designate a special carriageways for carrying of petroleum products. That was what was done in the past, in the 60s. People were not trucking petroleum products before. But today we are using trucks to do it. In those days, the railways had special trucks, that carry petroleum products and move them from one region to the other. But today we are condemned. So, Mr. President, this temporary measure my friend is asking for, and which this bill that is presented here is seeking to solve, is very, very important. And I want all of us to support it. Hoping that with this one first, then, we will start get back to the long-term solution to this problem, so that tanker drivers will not be exposed to far distances. And because of these far distances that today, Mr. President, a truck that are supposed to take 33,000 liters of petroleum product are carrying 45, 55, and 60,000. And all that has consequences on our roads. Because when you have a truck carrying 60,000 liters on the road, that road will not last. The life distance for the road will not be long. So all these are diseases that compound the issues in the downstream sector of petroleum industry. And my colleague, Senator Ubah, has to be given the whole commune for bringing this bill, which is going to solve a problem for the society, the motoring public, and then the people who are in this industry. With that, I second this. The second reading of this bill.
Representing KB Central. Mr. President, I rise to lend my support to this very important bill for two reasons. Number one, I quote, the primary purpose of any government is the protection of lives and property. This is what our Constitution says. And this bill seeks to protect lives and properties of people. We have lost thousands of lives as a result of petroleum tankers accident along our roads or even in our cities. And the establishment of transit park for trucks, not only for petroleum products, but even for industrial chemicals, fertilizer, and all other heavy-duty items that are being carried along our roads will go a long way in reducing accidents. Petroleum products ideally are supposed to be transported through the pipeline or railway, as Senator Taji said. Unfortunately, we have certain petroleum depots established in this country. Millions of dollars have been spent in establishing this depot. And unfortunately, most of the pipelines have been vandalized. So we should do whatever is humanly possible to restore the transportation of petroleum products through the pipeline. Secondly, Mr. President, thousands of lives have been lost as a result of this. petroleum products are being carried from Lagos to Maiduguri, from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri or to Sokoto, and at times these petroleum tanker drivers drive throughout the night, no rest, no recreation. They continue driving. Some of them even take drugs to ensure that they remain awake. And this is very, very dangerous. So if we have this transit park, it will certainly reduce accidents. It will also provide recreation centers for tanker drivers. So for this reason, I support this bill, and I urge all my colleagues to do the same. Lastly, Mr. President, the Ministry of Transportation is trying to set up transit park through public-private partnership. I attended a meeting in Lagos where the Minister of Transportation, together with the Shippers Council, the MPA, and even officials of NMPC, were in that meeting. And they proposed the idea that transit parks should be established by private people. And tanker drivers can go into this transit park, park their vehicle there, eat, rest, and they continue their journey. And they pay a fee by doing this. So this will even reduce the burden on the government. And perhaps when it's time for public hearing, we should invite the Shippers Council, the Ministry of Transportation that organize this workshop, to also have their inputs in arrival at the decision on this bill. So I urge all my colleagues to support this very important bill, because it will reduce road accidents, it will save lives and properties of people. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator
Ubah, in sharing with us his experience as a player in this industry. I think this is one of the beauties of the National Assembly. People come from diverse backgrounds, come with the experience, and it helps in building our nation. So I want to thank the Senator Ubah for this input. Now, talking about the menace of tanker drivers with petroleum products, let me just share a short story of what happened last week. There was this military checkpoint between Port Harcourt and Enugu. And usually, because of the presence of the military personnel, you have long queue of vehicles waiting to be cleared so that they can move or continue their journey. So in this particular checkpoint was such a long queue, and then on that queue was a tanker and a tanker driver with a petroleum product. So they have taken a long time waiting to be cleared or to be allowed to proceed. So the driver got pressed. So he came out of his vehicle because he knew that they can ask them to continue moving at any moment. So he started running to the bush so that he can answer the call of nature and return quickly. When the driver saw him running, everybody started running. And then there was pandemonium. So when everything settled down, the man came out of the bush and was asking what was going on. They said, "We saw you running, we thought that there's fire on the tanker." So that tells you how sensitive Nigerians are regarding tanker and tanker drivers and petroleum products. So this bill, I believe, is a way of addressing some of these fears which are real and germane. We've heard tanker drivers with their petroleum products causing all kinds of mayhem. The one that happened on Isha a few weeks ago is still fresh in our memory. So I believe that as a responsible parliament, we must join hands to address this problem. One of the things we need to do is to ensure that some of these drivers will move their products only at night, not during the day when there are other vehicles plying the highways, or if, in fact, even in the cities. The second is to ensure the roadworthiness of the tankers themselves, starting from the construction to the time to get to the depot. It must be certified that the tankers are in roadworthy conditions and that the materials and metals used in constructing them are such that can be able to ensure safety on the roads. The other thing we need to do, which is what's happening in most countries, is to ensure that petroleum products are delivered through pipelines to even the filling stations. In some cities, you will never see a tanker driver on the road because each filling station is linked to a central depot where the products are fed to the stations. So until we get to that stage where we're able to develop smart cities that will be able to accommodate that, we must ensure that our tanker drivers deliver these products only at night. While growing up, we saw our railway lines carrying petroleum products from the south to the north. But because of the problem we have with our rail development, today most of these tanker drivers are now forced to go by the roads, causing all kinds of trouble, damage to the roads, and also this recent incident of fire breakouts. So I think that it's appropriate that we support this bill and then send it to the committee so that the committee will look at it in detail and be able to ensure the safety of lives and property of Nigerian citizens. Thank you.
Senator Kwayeki.
Join my colleagues to appreciate Senator Ubah for this timely bill he has brought up. We are all aware of the tanker accidents on our roads and the loss of lives, loss of properties in Nigeria, where a tanker moves from one local government to the other, not even long distance. And on the road, a small turn or gallop, the tanker will fall, and from there we will lose lives and properties. Just like other colleagues of mine have stressed, it is important to support this bill to serve as a guide to help the tanker drivers in bringing out the right tanker to be used on our roads. The most important thing that we have to note, which causes the most accidents that we have on the road, is the construction, the status of the tankers. When there is an accident and a tanker was properly constructed, there may not be a leakage. And when there's no leakage, the severity of the accident might be under check, under control. But as soon as there is that leakage and the tanker falls, the petrol will spill, and from there we have the inferno. So this bill is very, very necessary, that it will help in the construction of the tankers and then to guide who drives the tanker. Not just any driver that will jump into the truck and move the truck. Again, to also check who sits by the tanker driver. If it is one person, like we are proposing, it will be better to move the trucks in the night. As an individual, nature can come in, but when there is somebody to keep you company, you will be alert to ensure that you move the vehicle from one point to the other safely. And with that, I want to join others to support that this bill should be approved. Thank you.
Senator Kabiru Ibranga.
To commend my friend Ipanyi Ubah for this motion or for this bill brought to the Senate. I believe last Senate we have been trying to come up with a bill on setting up trailer parks in various locations of the nation. I remember as a chairman committee on works before, and Pema was under that committee, we tried to establish trailer parks. or even try to complete the existing ones. Like the one at Mararaba Jos and the one at here along Abuja Road. We try to reactivate or complete those existing structures which was started by the states of the federation, of those areas like Kaduna State. We are the one doing those 2 filling stations, trailer parks. So therefore, Mr. President, it is important that this bill, when it's passed into the committee or relevant committee, to be able to come out with areas and locations. Drivers should not drive for more than 8 hours on that road. And the other problem we have is that the drivers carry overload. Most of the tanker drivers carry 60 tons, while our roads are designed for 35 tons weight. And that's why we have these potholes. And when we have these potholes, we hope that's the easy way, or it's one of the ways that you get accidents on the roads. So therefore, there should be restrictions on the weight on the trailers. There should be restriction, and when we decided to put in way bridges, or even when you put the way bridges, was not an excuse. It's also a way of corruption, because some can carry extra load and pay extra on the way bridges. So therefore, it's very important we control the weight of these vehicles to be limited to the design of our roads.
This bill seeks to recognize hard work and celebrate excellence, and that is the essence of this bill. It is said in one of the hadiths of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that the best among humankind is that who bring benefits to society, and it is for this reason that I rise today to move for an amendment that would change the name of Daura Polytechnic to Mustafa Bukar Polytechnic in Daura for the following reason. One, he has been a public servant by excellence. He has worked in so many ministries, departments, from state rising to federal level, why he ended up being a PAMSEC. On retirement, he joined politics, and the school that we are talking about, the polytechnic that we are discussing of, he was the one who moved for its first reading. And as such, I felt that the only way we can immortalize him and recognize him is to rename the school after him. Although there are heavy political heavyweights in Daura, too numerous to mention, one of which is President Muhammad Buhari, but we have named so many monuments in Nigeria in the name of President Buhari, and this is one opening that I believe that we should recognize the late Mustafa Bukar Madawa Kindora for the achievement he has done. It is not out of sentiment that I wake up and said, okay, I move for the amendment. I wanted to do it while I was pursuing the bill to its logical conclusion, which has already been assented to. But I did it because of the fact that this gentleman has served Nigeria in various capacities, and he has, out of his sweat, out of his own heart, been somebody who has been contributing to the development of specifically education in our zone. He ran a charity organization where he was supporting about 5 local governments. Out of that desire, out of that excellence too, he built a private school in Abuja which is called IQ, primary and secondary school, in which he was training less privileged, although it's a private school, but he still have a scholarship program in which he helps other people. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, like I said, this is a very, very simple bill. What it seeks to do is just to amend the name so as to immortalize this gentleman. I think with these very few words of recognition, I want to seek the support of members of the Senate to recognize the fact that we can only encourage people to do good if we begin to recognize what they left behind. Thank you very much for this opportunity. That's all.
This beautiful bill by Senator Keita, we all recall the saddest incident the day we lost Mustafa Bukar. He was an epitome and he contributed his quota in this same chamber during the 8th Assembly. I remember vividly when he moved the motion for the same polytechnic. So immortalizing Mustafa is something that is even necessary and is very good, so that it becomes some sort of recognition, and for his family, they will feel happy and people will be happy that, oh, look, after all, this man that we lost, and he played a very prominent role during the 8th Assembly, is being remembered by their colleagues. May his soul rest in perfect peace. I support this bill wholeheartedly. Thank you.
Senator Kabir Barkia.
Late distinguished Senator Bukar was one fine gentleman who is so humble and very unassuming. We sat very close in that corner, and I recall very vividly, most times when the chamber is tense, he's one of those elders in the chamber who step in to give some words of wisdom, and at the end of the day, we not only get closure on the issue, but we get a very solid direction. And of course, along the line of the tradition of encouraging leaders who served to be recognized, this is one very important example that, when done, we help to situate the practice where people will feel very comfortable knowing that when they serve diligently, long after they are gone, or even shortly after they are gone, there are people who can rise to the occasion to say, look, we need to immortalize these people. And I think this is one immortalization that is not only well-deserved, but should be commended. And so within this context, I align myself with the statement by distinguished Senator Nalla that we should commend our colleague for being very, very brave and courageous in taking this bull by the horn. And like he said, this is done in an environment where there are so many heavyweights. But this is also situated within the context of the fact that he came up with this bill simply because he wants not just the people of Daura, but Nigerians to benefit from what this polytechnic has to offer. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I join others in agreeing and supporting and seconding that this particular bill be read the second time. Thank you.
Of the late Senator Mustafa Bukar. Mr. President, you recall that as Senate leader, we had to fast track the passage of that bill in order to accommodate him, because by the time he was very ill, I remember he sitting there. I had to ensure that I would stand down some of the other items, the other paper, in order to bring it forward to pass that bill so that it can exit. And I'm happy today that a very responsible Senate is now looking back to honor a man that deserves indeed that honor. He was not just a Katsina senator. He was senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He was detribalized. He was full of humility. And I'm happy today that his own people have recognized the need to promote those virtues by naming that polytechnic after him. And I'm humbled to be part of this enterprise. I do hope that other sectors, other communities, other parts of the country will also remember that when people serve them, they should find a way to honor them. So it's not just about an amendment. This is just a tribute to an honest man, a man who worked for his people and died in active service. So I support this bill, and I believe that if the sponsor of this bill had asked this Senate to fast track this bill, go through second reading, third reading, and pass this bill, I'm sure that I'll be happy to oblige you. I support this bill.
Senator Rocha Sokoro.
Explicable matter of mystery. And in the journey of life, no one can tell of what becomes of our tomorrow. I was not a member of the 8th Senate. I never had any direct interaction with late Senator Booker. But destiny brought all of us at this crucial moment of our nation's development from our various villages and communities to this red chamber, where we now feel and act as brothers. I speak from the family perspective that I see our Senate as a family, irrespective of political differences, religious differences, or ethnic differences. Since destiny has brought us here to be our brother's keeper, to speak for our nation, and defend the interests of the poor masses of our nation, it is in that light that I want to commend Senator Keita for even remembering one of us who once enjoyed the privileges that we had, but for the essence of destiny is no longer here with us. What we do as a nation is that we forget people who have contributed in no small way to our development of our nation. But we tend to celebrate more of failures of others and evil of others, rather than celebrate people who have excelled. Keita today has shown a roadmap that men must be honored for what they represent and what they stand for. He is not asking for too much. And I think this motion of his, or this bill, is rather a reawakening motion to tell everyone that knows him, even in his state, that he should also be so honored in different ways. So I support him. I came this morning with some form of feelings of emotions. The same way that as we are seated here, a few days ago, by reasons of law, and which is beyond our control, one of us is not here. For me, it's a feeling that is so strong, rooted in the family relationship that we have all enjoyed. While we pray for repose of his soul, we also pray for all of us in whatever circumstance of life we find ourselves. So, Mr. President, the time has come for us to learn to be more of our brother's keeper and respect each other. But one thing you have done well in this line is that there cannot be difference between the political parties even in this place. And there's no difference between our religion or our tribes, even as we are seated here. So I commend you for that, and we shall continue in that spirit. It will not be anything out of place that if any one of us run into a major accident of life, that this Senate should deem it fit to either send delegations or show some form of support either to the person or to the members of his family. It is for this reason that I again stand to commend Keita, and that we should change the name of that polytechnic in honor of this great senator who once served this red chamber. Mr. Senate President.
I rise to join my colleagues to support the second reading of this bill. Excellency, for those of us who are Christians, there's a song that we sing when we go to the church. What shall you be remembered when you die? Will you be remembered for good or bad? Today, we are remembering this our departed colleague for good. I interacted with him in the 8th Senate. All the qualities that my colleagues have said that he had, I concur. But I add that the distinguished senator had no ethnicity in his political lexicon. He saw every person as a brother. And the impact that he made here in terms of motions, in terms of bills, didn't stop here. He carried it to his constituency, to his state, to impact on his people, educationally and otherwise. Why should we forget him? We should not forget him. And my junior brother, who raised this bill, I commend him for the courage, because it's not every person that will do that. And I know that he's speaking the minds of all the people from his constituency, that this man should be immortalized. Your Excellency, we have a tradition here. When distinguished senators have some favors, like being ministers or what, when they come here, we take them to take a bow and go. This our colleague is dead. But with this motion, I will suggest, Your Excellency, that his spirit comes here and takes a bow and goes. On that note, Your Excellency, yes, of course. On that note, Your Excellency, I support this bill to be read for a second time, and I commend the mover of the bill, and we wish him, wherever he is now, I know that he's in the bosom of the Lord, wish him peaceful rest. Thank you, Your Excellency.
I think with that contribution, one act to amend the Federal Polytechnic Daura Katsina State Act 2019 to make provision for a change of name of the Federal Polytechnic Daura Katsina State to Mustafa Bukar Polytechnic Daura Katsina State and for related matters, 2019 second reading taken, and the bill is referred to the Senate Committee on Tertiary Institutions and TETFON to report back within 4 weeks. Distinguished colleagues, let me thank all of you who contributed to the debate for the second reading of this bill. All of us who interacted with our late colleague, Senator Mustafa Bukar, know how deep he was, how committed and dedicated he was to good cause, and of course this institution of the Senate. Of course, he had a very glowing career in the civil service before he joined politics. But one thing that is a takeaway here is the renaming of the Federal Polytechnic Daura to Mustafa Bukar. And like all of our colleagues here said, this is a good example of what good brings. And of course, we take this opportunity to congratulate our colleague who is now representing Katsina North, Senator Amir Babakaita, who replaced our late colleague. What he has done is a very good example of the kind of attitude politicians should have. We are normally seen as bad people because people hardly understand us. Even though they believe in us, they trust us because we are always elected. But this kind of attitude will go further in giving the kind of impression, the positive impression that we should always give the Nigerian public, the people who represent. So with this, I want to congratulate Senator Ahmad Babakaita for this bill. And incidentally, it is his committee, the committee that he chairs, that will handle the bill for the legislative activities that will work on the bill. So I expect that we can fast track it so that we are able to get it passed. And of course, you know, the eventual signature is coming from Mr. President. I believe that Mr. President will sign this bill into act, and then the Polytechnic assumes its new name. Congratulations. Leader of the Senate.